Good to be back. Obviously, this is a big year for Oakland basketball. It's a huge year. Who would have thought, we played Michigan State to open this building 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And, Mike Tome made a shot with about Michigan State, I think, was ranked 4th in the country. Mike Tome made a 3 with about 6 or 7 minutes going to half to put us ahead. And, everybody's like wide-eyed. We're at this Division II team's actually playing with Michigan State. And everybody walked away that night thinking, what a special night. But nobody remembers we lost by 30, and who would have thought when you walked away from that night that, we would be sitting here talking about playing Michigan State in the greatest arena in the country, both teams receiving, heavy accolades as national, top 25, 30 teams in the country. So we've come a long way in the last 19 years to be where we're at. But I really think that this season, we've been a nice little story, and I've been fighting that we're not a nice little story, that this is who we are now, and that you can have a third team. Look what Gonzaga did in Washington and Washington State, and they had to fight through it. And that's what we've always been trying to do here, is to get to that level. And I think this is a year that we can legitimize that with, because we have to not just have a great regular season. We have to win our conference tournament and get to the NCAA tournament and do something in the NCAA tournament. And if we can do that, then I think we legitimize the last 19 years, and I think we've arrived. We're not just a team that's here or not here. I know if you were at the Central Michigan game the other day when you saw us take the floor, you could have put a Big Ten team's jersey on us and you would have believed that's a Big Ten team. Our size, our length, our athleticism. We've come so far that's what we are now. So, now we got to get it done. And our kids understand that pressure. And I'm okay with it, because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make a wager with anybody here that wants to wager with me, but I'm going to wager that we are the oldest team in the country. I don't know that because I haven't spent the time looking, but one of you research geniuses can find out. If you take our top 7, if Jalen Hayes was available to play tonight and we played, our top 7 rotation averages 22 years old. And I got to believe there's not another team in the country that can say that. We got a 24-year-old, 5 22-year-olds, and a 20-year-old. Braylon's 20. He's the only really young guy that plays. This group of guys has seen everything. There's nothing we haven't seen. There's no one place we haven't been. There's nothing that can scare us, nothing that we'll see that we haven't seen before. No pressure-packed moment. We've won in an NIT game. We've come from 20 back to win. We've lost to a team that we beat by 34 a week before on a shot at the buzzer. We missed a couple free throws. We've been in those positions. So this is a team that should be able to handle anything that they see this year. This is a team that should not have to worry about the pressure of it. And there will be an unbelievable amount of pressure going into March, because this team is 38-14 in league play. And this senior class is 38-14 in league play and has never won a postseason Horizon Conference tournament game. So whether we win the league, whatever we do, it's still going to come down to that, because that's how they're going to be judged. Their legacy when they leave here. You know what? If we win 13 games in the league this year, we will be the winningest program in conference play in the history of the Horizon League. Now, the Horizon League's about 100 years old. And you go back and look at the teams that have played in that league. They're big names that came from that league. And right now, if we win 13 games, we'll pass Xavier as in league play, the winningest percentage-wise team ever. And yet, if we don't win a conference tournament game, this senior class will be remembered for that, not for all the great things they did. So we understand that. We understand the pressure. We're prepared for it. We talk about it every day. Every day since we've convened to start this season, we have talked about this. So it's not going to be something that we're not ready for. Anybody want to take my bet on the age? Anybody want to do the research? All right.
Questions?
Yes.
You cited Gonzaga as an example for you to follow on. How much do you also look at what Wichita State was able to do the last few years?
Well, I use Gonzaga because everybody knows Gonzaga and because they're in a state out in the middle of nowhere that nobody had heard of. They don't have, they're like Oakland. We have a name that isn't recognizable. I mean, I've recruited kids. I hired somebody. Honest to God, I hired a kid to be a video guy, and he thought he was going to California. He did. I mean, he accepted the job and then found out that he was going to Michigan. I mean, our name is not recognizable like that. Although I think we've gotten to that point that it is. But when we first started this, people thought we were in California. And Gonzaga was, who knew where that was? There was Washington State, two state, schools that have their great rivalry like Michigan and Michigan State has. And so we fight that every day in recruiting. We fight. No kid grows up wanting to go to Oakland. When I walk into an arena with Tom Izzo, people say, hey, there's Tom Izzo, oh, and there's the Oakland coach. That's the thing that we've fought for so long. And it's a really tough battle. Now, we're never going to be Gonzaga because Gonzaga's coach makes $3 million a year. I don't. Their basketball budget is probably 8 times what our basketball budget is. I mean, money speaks in this business. But I use the Gonzaga term because it fits that, there's 2 schools there, and now everybody, when you talk about a school in Washington, the first person they talk about is Gonzaga. That's never going to happen to Oakland, but I just want to be in the same breath. That's my goal coaching. That's for the last 20 years that we've done this. This is my goal. Not to win a game, not to win a championship, but to the public and the fans and the kids going to high schools that pick a college to go to, that they put Oakland on the same plane as Michigan and Michigan State. That's been my dream that I've chased.
How long ago did you make the decision to kind of go back to a non-conference schedule that was more like once a year's past? This one's definitely more challenging.
Well, my new athletic director's had everything to do with the scheduling. He's got a philosophy, and he's come in and changed what we were doing at the time. This team has such a chance to be good, and we could be receiving these votes as we're receiving and then not play anybody, and then they're going to say, well, they haven't played anybody, and they're not going to be able to do that against us. We're playing Kansas, Syracuse, Michigan State. We're playing a very good group of mid-majors here. I mean, Fort Wayne's really good. They beat Indiana last year. New Orleans went to the NCAA tournament last year. You just go down the road and there's a good team coming in every time. Texas Southern might be the best of all the teams that are coming in. They beat Tulane in one of those scrimmages the other day, and then Tulane beat LSU in the Hurricane game. I mean, this schedule is very difficult. We're going to face somebody every night, and it's a chance to prove ourselves. I don't have to worry about youth and trying to get anybody better and things like that, because I just got worried about this team peaking and playing. We've been an unbelievable February team because I believe you win conference championships in February. And if you look at it, I don't think there's 5 teams in the country that are better than us in February than the last 10 years. I think we're 9-0 in February last year. The problem is in March, the last 3 years, we haven't been very good. So our focus this year is more on March than it is. And I want to win the conference championship because for me, winning conference championships, if I just took my opinion and my views, that's all I really care about. I want to win the conference championship because that's a statement of your team and your season, not 3 days in March. But unfortunately, that's all social media cares about. That's all fans care about is they want to win. They want to go to the NCAA tournament. They want to do that. So I'm understanding that with this team, and we're going to try and do that. Plus, we want to stay down there. And we know that if we can get to the championship game down there, they're going to have 3 unbelievable crowds. They're going to make money, and they're going to want to keep the Rising League tournament there. And so, that's on my shoulders, not our shoulders too. That we've got to do that for a lot of reasons. So my personal view of just winning the conference, I got to push that aside this year. We've got to remain focused, and that's what in my opening remarks, that's what I was talking about. We're focusing on that conference tournament.
What about player-wise? Can you talk about the depth and how deep this team is going to be? How many do you see playing on a regular basis? I have as much talent as I've ever had, 1 through 12. I said that last year too.
The problem with saying that, though, is everybody wants to see those guys. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Kendrick Nunn's going to play a lot of minutes. Martez Walker's going to play a lot of minutes. Jalen Hayes is going to play a lot of minutes. Isaiah Brock is going to play a lot of minutes. And Nick Daniels is going to play a lot of minutes. That's 5 guys. And I didn't even talk about one of the starters. So if you've got all those minutes to those, when you have players like that, they're going to play. So I've got 2 kids that I think, if they were somewhere else, could be the freshman of the year in this league. I think James Beck and Stan Scott could both be player of the year in this conference. Freshman of the year in this conference. But they're not even going to get a vote because they're not going to get enough minutes this year. Now, are they going to get minutes? Yes. Are they going to get put in there at times to help us? Yeah. Can we have an injury? Sure. Can I rest somebody? Yes. But in the focus of this team, when you have players like I have, they got to play. And they will. That's just the way I coach.
You lose one rival in Valpo, but you gain back another one in IUP. You are in the conference. Can you talk a little bit about your feelings about that?
Yeah, I kind of upsets me that I keep reading that, Oakland's so good, and because Valpo's gone, it helps them. We were the number 1 seed in the tournament last year, and Valpo didn't win that tournament either year either. In fact, they didn't win a game either. They lost both their first games just like we did. Now, I wonder if that conference tournament had been at Oakland, who knows what would have happened, but it's not. It's in that building, and we want it in that building. That's the best thing for our conference, to have it there. So when they sit there and talk, I don't care that Valpo left. Babe Ruth's been dead for 100 years, and they still played. They had the greatest World Series they've ever had this past week. The Horizon League's a great league with great teams, and we're ready to play whoever shows up. The only rival that I look at is Detroit, and that's because I don't like them.
Sticking with baseball for just a second, what are your thoughts about JV winning the World Series with the Astros?
Really, I wish he would have won it the night before. But yeah, I'm a big Tiger fan, and I think he's going to go to the Hall of Fame wearing the English D. So I'm excited that he can put that on his resume. Yeah, very happy for him. Anything else?
Have you made any adjustments in the way that you're coaching, just based on the health scare that you had earlier this year? Or?
I hope not. I hope not. Yeah, it was a tough deal. My biggest concerns of that is I don't take care of myself during the season, and I'm going to have to do that. This business is a tough business, and people on the outside really don't see, what we do and what it does to us. We'll lose a game and somebody will tweet it. You know what? Let me talk about something. Michigan State's the perfect example. Michigan State football fans should be kicked in the, a year ago, they wanted to get rid of one of the best coaches in the country. A couple things happened. They had a bad year. Now all of a sudden he's great again. That's our profession. So, when the season starts and you lose a game you shouldn't lose, or our game's close and you're feeling the heat of that. I'm an eater. I love to eat. And I love comfort food, and comfort food's not good for you. And I'll eat that. I'll sit and watch film all night, and I'll eat chocolate-covered popcorn. That shit's good. So that's what I'm worried about. And not sleeping. It's not just me. I'm just not pointing at me. It's our profession. There's a college basketball coach in the country that sleeps during those 6 months. If you get 4 hours of sleep one night, that's a great thing. And so I'm worried about that, how that will affect my thing on the card. The good thing is this team doesn't need to be coached. They're going to get yelled at because that's who I am. But they don't need to be coached. They know our offense. They know what works. They know why I do things. They're old. They've been around. So for me, having that happen and coming into this year, I'm not worried at all.
If there's one thing that keeps you up at night that would prevent you from reaching your ultimate goal this season, what would that be?
Worried about our point guard play. I'm worried about rebounding. As great as athletes as we are, and then I'm worried about our emphasis on defense. When you have, and I think I can talk about this as well as anybody. When you have kids that can score the way we can score, they fall into this belief that they can outscore teams to win, and the concentration on defense is, last year, even though we averaged 80 some points a game, which is a lot, we won because of our defense. Because when we believed in it, Sharon, and Sharon was kind of I don't want to call him a fake, but a misnomer that he was a great defensive player. He really wasn't, but he believed he was, and he brought that swag to the rest of the team that defense was important. And so everybody believed in it. And with Isaiah protecting the rim, and you know, he's as good at, Pat and I were talking a little bit ago, he's as good a rim protector, in my opinion, as there is in the country. And so when you can protect the rim and you have length and you can get after the ball, you know, look at the stats last year. We were the number 1 team in the country in ball screen defense. We were in the top 40 in transition defense. When you play the way we play, transition defense is the utmost importance. And against Central Michigan, we weren't very good in transition defense. So that bothered. Our half-court defense was as good as it was last year, but our transition defense wasn't good. So that worries me, and it's more of a mindset that these kids, well, you know, we're going to score 100. Why don't, you know, all we got to do is have one more than they do. So that worries me. Point guard play worries me, and just that rebounding. But I always worry about rebounding.
You said now with Sharon gone, he brought that belief. Are you going to try to have to manufacture that?
Well, Nick Daniels. Nick Daniels is tremendous. I mean, here's a kid. I've never coached a kid in my life that wanted to play at Oakland as much as Nick Daniels does. And so he can do no wrong in my eyes, because that kid loves Oakland, loves the program. We went to our cross-country teams won the conference tournament, which we held on campus last week. It was cold and raining and everything, and they did a great job. But we went as a team, and Nick Daniels wore his varsity jacket. I mean, that's just who he is. He loves Oakland. So I have no issue with somebody. He will lead us. He will make people do what they're supposed to do. And if he'll be another voice besides the coaching staff ringing in their ears how important this possession of defense is. And that. So I'm not. Sharon was great, one of the best leaders I've ever had, but we have to move on. That's college sports. You move on.
What was your reaction when you heard that Brock wouldn't play this year and then that he would play this year?
Well, I cried when I heard he wouldn't play. I was in the hospital when all that went down, so I didn't know a lot of what was going on. We finally got it to have a meeting a while after that, and it made a lot of sense what he said to me. I mean, he's 24 years old. He was in the Army. He had no clue that college basketball was going to be like being in the Army. I mean, I was probably as tough as some of his drill sergeants were. He had to show up every day. He had to be on a schedule. He had teammates. He had responsibilities. And I think when he got out of the Army that he was kind of looking forward to life without that. Plus, the winter semester last year, he didn't do as well as he felt he should do academically, and a lot of that was because we were on the road and missed class and things like that. So he had a moment in his life where I'm not going to be a pro, which I'm not sure he's right on. And I've got to get my priorities right. I've got to go to class. I want to be a biology major. I want to do all those things. And he said, you know what? I'm going to give basketball up and do that. Well, then basketball starts, and here's a 6'9" kid walking around campus, and everybody's wondering why you aren't playing. Imagine if you're him. Everywhere you go, people are asking you, why aren't you playing? Why aren't you playing? What's wrong? Well, you know what? Did Kampe hit you? Did you hit Kampe? Did he yell at you? Did you know why? Everybody had their own opinion of why he wasn't going to play. And I think he got tired of that, and I think he missed basketball. And so, yeah, I think our whole team was excited that he would come back because, number one, he's a great kid. Number two is he's a great player. I mean, he doesn't have to touch the ball, and he affects the game. I mean, he really affects the game. So we were elated that he came back.
You said your relationship with him has grown. In your eyes, how's your relationship with him grown?
Well, I heard, when I met with him, I heard his concerns. And you know what, and much of it was right. I treated him like a freshman, and he was 23 years old, and he probably, I'm not the greatest with freshmen. Most freshmen are immature, and I'm an old school guy, and they need to be told what to do, how to do it, and they need to be held accountable for doing it right. And then as they grow and learn, I'm not, and I think, I saw greatness in him, and I tried to bring that greatness out, and he was just trying to understand life. I mean, remember when he graduated from high school, he hadn't done anything. And then his 4 years in the Army, which is not real life. I mean, that's that. When I went and saw him in Kuwait and saw what those soldiers do and that isn't real life. That's not a life that many people, you're walking around and when I landed in Kuwait, we were supposed to go 4 or 5 different places, and it ended up we couldn't go because there had been a car bombing the day before. And so now I got put into a van that had curtains on it and taken to the base, and I had to stay in that base all the 8 days I was there. Think about that. And here's a guy, who's 130-degree weather, wearing the stuff, wearing full uniform every day, protecting our country. That's not the life you and I grew up living. And so now he comes back into real life, and I think he's got to find a way to fit in. And so now I understand that better because of what I went through. And I think I can do a better job of coaching him. And that coaching is more than just basketball. It's coaching in life too. Our kids have got to leave here with a degree and ready to go out and prepare themselves so that they can have successful lives, and they have to be great people when they leave. That's part of my job.
Of all your teams, is this the one that's most poised preseason to make the tournament?
No, 2011 we had Keith Benson back, and we had Will Hudson back, and we had Reggie Hamilton. And that team had many of the expectations this team has. The difference between this team and that team is that team hadn't done anything. They had won a championship, and we played Pittsburgh in the NCAA tournament, and we were beating them, and Derek Nelson got a cut over his eye, and by the time we got him back, we were behind, and ended up losing by 20. The next year, they didn't know going into that year how good they were. And again, we were a pretty, cute story then. And then we beat Tennessee, who was ranked 7th in the country, and then these expectations came down. And we lose to Texas in the first round of the NCAA tournament, Texas by 4. And Texas had 3 guys drafted in the first round. And we had 1 drafted in the second round. So that was more our coming out into the real world of what it's like to be in the big time, that team. And that team had a lot of expectations on it too. I think this is different. I'm not saying this team's better than that team. At the end of the year, we'll know. It can be. We have 3 guys on this team that the NBA is looking at. We've had 3 players playing the NBA in the last 10 years. There aren't 25 schools in this country that can say that. Again, I'd like somebody to do the research on that, but I've been using that in recruiting. There aren't 25 teams in this country that can say they've had 3 NBA players in the last. The blue bloods, you go Michigan State, Kentucky, those, but then all of a sudden you get to 10 or 12 of those, and then you look and, oh no, Northwestern has them, Purdue has, So we got 3 on one team that right now, you got Kendrick Nunn, who I think could be a lottery pick. You got Martez Walker, who's on everybody's radar, and you've got Jalen Hayes, who I don't know if he's going to be a draft pick, but he surely is going to be one of those 2-way contract guys as soon as the draft's over. A team's going to call him and give him come to camp, come play in the summer league. We got 3 guys on one team like that. That's never happened here before. That's the growth of the program. So that was a long answer to your question. I don't even remember what your question was, but I think that team in 2011 had the same type of expectations. We just didn't know then. We were a cute story then. We're not a cute story anymore. Our fans are mad. Think about this. We won 25 games last year. We beat 2 Power 5 teams. We won a game in the NIT tournament. We had an unbelievable year, and there are people out there that are fans and season ticket holders that think we had a terrible year. That's the expectations that this program has got. We didn't have those expectations in 2011.
I think you've talked to some other media about this, about the frustration in the NCAA's decision about Jalen, just the message it sends.
Fortunately, he's lumped. There's 3 cases right now that people are scratching their head at. He's lumped into one of those 3 cases, which is good because then the focus isn't on Oakland. I don't want the focus on him. the bad part about it is that people are out there saying, oh, he's academically ineligible. He must be a bad student. He's a 2.9 student and he's going to graduate from one of our toughest majors in December. You have to have a 2.8 in your major classes here in that major. When you get to be a junior and senior, and you take HRD, whatever, you got to get a 2.8 to pass it. You got a 2.5 in a class. Now he also screwed some other classes up, but if he weren't playing basketball, he would nothing. I mean, he'd be fine. He'd be on. The rule is a satisfactory progress rule, and because he had taken all his other classes, all his electives, he couldn't take an elective. So he had a very short. He was about to graduate. He had a very short. You guys that have graduated know this. You have a very short group of classes left to take. Well, the NCAA doesn't look at that as, they don't look at that circumstance of that. That's just a big over-encompassing rule. And, their big thing was, well, they gave him a break in cutting some of the games, but we don't want to set precedents. Well, my answer to that is, why wouldn't you want to set precedents? Anybody else in the same position should be able to play. And we even put forth, look, if he doesn't graduate, we'll sit him the first 4 games of our conference season, which I would never want to do. But that's how sure we are he's going to graduate. He's a great student. I mean, here's an inner city kid that's come to Oakland and wanted a meaningful degree. He didn't want a degree that, I can just get through and all I got to do is pass these classes. He wanted a degree that he can use, something he wants to do in life. And he took on one of the toughest degrees at Oakland. I mean, I have a pretty good degree at Bowling Green, and there was no rules there that I had to have a 2.8 in a class. 2.0, yes, but 2.8, that never happened. And he took that on, and now he's being punished for it.
Regarding Jalen's potential NBA career, has there been any emphasis on extending his range beyond the three-point line?
Yeah, Jalen can shoot the 3, and he'll have all next summer to work on that. He's going to have to play a wing in the NBA, and he's going to have to prove in the summer leagues next year that he can do that. He ain't going to play the wing for me.